Hi, I'm Artis Wodehouse, and here you are in my studio in the Bronx, New York. And the reason I'm making this video today is there's been a lot of questions about the differences between two of my instruments that are made by Mason and Hamlin. The one on my left, the Mason and Hamlin Liszt Organ from 1887, and the one on my right, which has been called the 86K, Model 86K. That's just a number and that relates to the style of the case, but in fact this is called an American Harmonium, and it has a normal harmonium setup, and they are different instruments, and I want to make sure that people understand the difference between the two. The reason I want to demonstrate the Liszt first, even though I have a previous video that really goes through all the capabilities of this instrument, is simply to give context to the other instrument. So I'd like to start with the Liszt. The Liszt organ is a C to C instrument from low C up here. 61 notes, that's a very important point about this instrument. It was made that way in order to replicate the tessitura of the actual pipe organ of the 19th century. Now, the foundational stop on the Liszt is the English horn and the melodia, which is corresponding to 8 foot on the pipe organ. Now, as you notice, I pulled two stops. The reason I did is because the stops from here on down control the notes from here to here, and the stops from here on up control the notes from here to the top. So if you're going to play the full keyboard, you have to pull two stops simultaneously. So here's what this stop sounds like. Now you have a softened version of that called the English horn Dulce here and the Melodia Dolce down here. It's just the same sound but muted. Then you have the number 3 stop, which is in the left. It's called the Viola Stop, and it's a 4-foot stop. And the piccolo is also a 4-foot stop. It's on the right, and here's what it sounds like. It plays an octave higher than written. Now on the Liszt, you also have, in addition to that stop, which I just played again, you have the Viola Dolce, which is, again, it's softened. This stop is just muted. It's the same set of reeds, but okay. Now on this instrument you have in the treble some pretty interesting stops. You have the Vox Celeste, and that is an 8-foot stop, but it is a set of 2 reeds that are detuned, so it has a sort of shimmery sound. It's a lovely sound. Then there's a very contrasting sounding a set of 8-foot reeds called the Seraphone. It's very nasal. Then you have the Aeolian Harp here. It's a 2-foot stop. It sounds exactly like what it says it is. It sounds ethereal and now I think I've done all here. Sub-bass, yes. Very low, and the reeds are just enormous down there. Now, let's see, I think I've covered all the speaking stops. Oh, now we're dealing with the mechanical stops. This is called the Vox Humana, and what you can see if you look in the back of this, there's a paddle wheel, kind of like a paddle wheel on something that goes up the Mississippi River, that interrupts the flow of air. So when you're playing, say, the 8-foot stop and you add vox humana, it's a kind of a vibrato. You can hear it. It's a very subtle stop. Then, but it adds a certain humanity, vox humana, to the sound. It's like a singer. Then the other mechanical stop is the octave coupler, and that should be pretty self-explanatory. What it does is you play a note, but it will cause a note an octave higher to play. You can even see the keys going up and down a little bit. See that? Yeah. That gives a lot of fullness to the sound of a basic stop without it being overwhelming. Now, overwhelming is when you do this. And this is called the grand jeu. You know, all the reeds are speaking. Now, the stop I haven't discussed is the number 2 stop, and this is the heart and soul of the Liszt organ, and one of its raison d'etre. It's called the corno and the contrabasso. This is 16-foot stops, and they were referred to as the Liszt reeds. The Liszt reeds, these for the corno and the contrabasso, are right underneath your knees, and that's unlike any other instrument. This is a unique thing about the Liszt organ, and it's a very beautiful and rich stop. Very Wagnerian. All right, so that pretty much does it for the top here. The only thing is, I mentioned the grand jeu is controlled by your knee with a paddle, and you push it out, and it makes the whole organ speak. Although it doesn't trigger the sub bass, you have to pull the sub bass, and then it's just explosive. Not explosive, but it's just like overpowering. And then, of course, there's a swell paddle that controls. There's like it's just like on a pipe organ. It opens and shuts so that you can get a dynamics. You can do crescendos and decrescendos. So, in addition to the swell shade, which creates dynamics, and the grand jeu, which pulls all the reeds, so you have that massive sound, there's this little device called the pedal point here in the middle that you can hardly see, but what it does is, let's pull number 1 stop, your basic stop. When you engage it, it will hold a note. And up here, you see what it can do? So it can simulate to an extent what the pipe organist does with their foot pedals, but it's it's a poor substitute, unfortunately, but it's very useful. There's no doubt about it. So it goes, you engage and you engage it left, and you disengage it right while you're doing all this other stuff. So, but it is very useful. So I walked through the list, and these are all the things it can do. The thing that made the list unique and why it was the flagship was that of the Mason Hamlin company, was that the reeds were much larger than the normal reeds that they put in other instruments, and of course that caused it to have this bigger, fuller sound. And also the wind chest was designed to create better resonance, more resonance. So what you have here is an instrument that can actually substitute for a small pipe organ in a church, or it could be put in a meeting hall. And they were very expensive, these instruments, so they were more for public performance, absolutely more for public performance. They also, of course, the one thing I'm not mentioning is this is a single manual. They came in 2 manuals. I'm not sure if it went 3, but some of them even had foot pedals, but they all maintained this basic stop list, and they added other things. But the fact is, this was a public instrument, and you can see this gorgeous Victorian. They were, a symbol of affluence, a symbol of the capitalist system, and so there would be some wealthy people that might own it, but the middle-class household could certainly not buy one of these. I can't remember the exact sum it was, but it's like a whole year's salary in certain cases. So this is that instrument. Now I want to move over to an instrument that was designed more for the home environment, which is my 86K, aka the American Harmonium.